Good morning and welcome to our virtual broadcast here at First Unitarian Church of Toledo. We miss you all. We hope you're well and washing your hands, and we hope to see you when everything clears up. In the meantime, it's good to see you here on YouTube. No real announcements today. If you'd like to be involved with any of our winter music coming up, please give me an email at musicdirector@uutoledo.org. We'll have some lovely carols you can join in on singing. All you need is a smartphone. Other than that, I will turn us over for our opening words with Melissa.
Good morning, everyone. I have these opening words. Now is the time to open your hearts to the complexity of our communities. Let us be intentional about the promises we make to each other. Let us seek reasoned, resonating information. Let us listen to the voices of direct experience. Let us be open and have humility, because our knowledge is limited. Pay attention to processes and systems. Let us act compassionately so we can be the love that is holding all of us dear in this world. For our chalice lighting this morning, a new world yet unborn. We light this chalice today to illuminate our way toward love. Inside the womb of this waiting time, we are bathed in sounds, floating in love, growing out of our comfort zone. We experience love, sorrow, pain, and joy. There is a numinous quickening as we await a new world yet unborn. And now, as many of you may remember, is our covenant, if you would say that with me. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Our hymn today is number 86 in your gray hymnal, Blessed Spirit of My Life. Please join us. We'll have the two verses. Blessed Spirit of my life, give me strength through stress and strife. Help me live with dignity. Let me know serenity.
And now we will have our story by R.E. Roya.
Hello and good morning, everyone. It's a great day today to hear a story from our UUA endorsed curriculum, Creating Home. Its authors, Christy York and Jessica Olson, created this story called The Memory Table. I am privileged to read it for you today. 7-year-old Stephen dragged his backpack down the unfamiliar pathway to his new house. Yesterday, a big moving van had brought all his stuff to 746 Maple Street, and inside would be a mess of half-emptied boxes. This morning, he had found his toothbrush, but no toothpaste. Mom said it was in a different box. Stephen felt lonely and sad. Everywhere he had been all week was new. He did not recognize faces at his new school. The new house did not greet him the same way as the old house. As Stephen crossed the threshold of his new house, he slammed the new door and thought, even the door slams differently. Home hugs at the door were his mother's specialty. Stephen felt the same familiar warmth and loved as his mom hugged him. He smiled up at her and forgot his sadness as he said, I sure hope that's peanut butter cookies I smell. That's a super nose you have there, young man, his mother answered. Make way for super nose as it heads down towards the peanut butter cookies, Stephen yelled as he sailed down the hallway toward the smell of those peanut butter cookies. Stephen walked to the table and saw the red permanent marker spot from when he was 2 years old and started to draw without paper. At the end of the table, there stood a napkin holder he made in crafts at day camp and the funny chicken salt and pepper shakers from his grandmother's house. In front of the salt and pepper shakers was the stained glass chalice he made at his old church. Right in the middle of the table was a hollow spot from the marble slab his mom used for cutting out Christmas cookies. Next to the hollow was a huge plate of his favorite peanut butter cookies. Stephen smiled as he sat down. I know you've been sad, Stephen. You're missing all the old things and exhausted by all the new things. How are you feeling now? Asked his mom. Stephen munched a cookie for a moment and answered, I was sad until I saw the table. What did the table do to make you feel better? Asked his mom. I started thinking about all the things that happened at this table. We have Thanksgiving here with lots of relatives, and that can happen here in the same way, Stephen stated. And the grace we say at this table will be the same, even if it's a new place. Stephen's mom smiled. What else will continue in this new house? I could do my homework here and remember all the other times I sat here and learned things, Stephen added. Stephen, this table is the place where memories meet new experiences for our family. Our home is the place where we eat together, grow together, and learn together. Even if the building we meet is new, the good things that happen in our family don't change. Stephen paused. Then he said, Mom, can we light my chalice so I can remember all the times I learned at our old church? We're going to find a new church, aren't we, Mom? Stephen's mom went to the drawer and got a match. Yes, Stephen, we will find a new faith home. Stephen carefully lit the stained glass chalice. His mother helped him say the familiar words. We are Unitarian Universalists with minds that think, with hearts that love and hands that are ready to serve.
Thank you for that story. Our anthem today, as well as our Spirit of Life, have been pre-recorded for you. A few folks have prepared a couple different videos, and our tech team will now share our anthem. Nothing but peace is enough for me. Nothing but peace is enough. Nothing but peace is enough. Nothing but peace is enough for me. Nothing but peace is enough for me. Nothing but peace is enough. Nothing but peace is enough. Nothing but peace is enough for me. Nothing but peace is enough for me. Nothing but peace is enough. Nothing but peace is enough. Nothing but peace is enough for me. Nothing but peace is enough for me. Nothing but peace is enough for me. Nothing but peace is enough. Nothing but peace is enough. Nothing but peace is enough for me. Nothing but peace is enough for me. Nothing but peace is enough. Nothing but peace is enough. Nothing but peace is enough for me. Nothing but peace is enough for me.
I want to invite you into a moment of meditation, contemplation, and prayer right now. We have many joys and many sorrows in our congregation and in our UU faith. We are mourning the death of Rita McDougall in her joyous, creative, generous spirit. And there are those of us who are also mourning the recent death of Reverend Dr. Hope Johnson. In our world, there is so much sickness. There's been over 250,000 people who have died from COVID-19. And yet, there are people who are healing, leaving hospitals for home, and we lift up those who are struggling at home, to heal. Our country is struggling to heal. Let us focus on that which allows life-sustaining, shepherding, or leadership that is empathetic. We will have one moment, 1 minute of silence.
Spirit of life, come to me, sing in my heart all the strength of compassion. Rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving light the shade of justice. Rose of heroes, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
I want to offer this prayer, which is an interpretation of Psalm 23, before we go to the readings. Love is my guide. I shall not falter. Love calls me to rest when I feel disconnected. Beloveds lead me to deep waters where I sit to think in solitude. My mind and my heart reshape and adapt. Love allows my ego to slowly sink. Though I walk through the valley of chaos and inequity, I shall keep my heart and eyes open. For there is elegance and patterns seen over time. Love is the breath of my breath. And just as long as I have breath, I will keep steadfast on the moral path. And now for our readings.
Hello, once again. I have the privilege to read, and you're hearing the readings for today. the first being taken from the words of Bishop Carlton Pearson. And he says, Christianity, by another name, was started in Israel as a spiritual relationship between people in a rogue religious group called the Way. It then moved west to Europe and became an organization, or as I like to call it, Christianity Incorporated, primarily leading to the Holy Roman Empire, institutionally the Roman Catholic Church. It moved farther west to America and became a common and diverse assortment of Protestant businesses called denominations. Others wide religions can be included in this same institutional category. Overall, most removed considerably from their originally spirituality, and today mostly doctrines, dogmas, and rituals that are politically powerful but spiritually powerless. Tanganyika writes, one of our own in the UU tradition, sacred time is not the opposite of profane time. Sacred time is the opposite of fleeting time. Fleeting time is the kind of time in which we are distracted, racing around and trying to catch up as we fall further behind. It's working at the computer while a friend talks to us on the phone. By contrast, sacred time is noticing a shift or tone in a person's voice and asking what's wrong. It's full presence, paying attention in the moment. It's what happens in a covenant group when we discover how to stay present to life again. Sacred time is a biological time, the time our bodies take to act, to think, or feel. When we pay attention to biological time, we focus on the science and the art of spiritual practice.
Thank you, Roya. My sermon is titled Thinking Shepherds, Pilgrims, and the Late Bronze Age. And we will go over each one of these areas. The world we knew in March 2020 halted. It was startling and striking. Yet, life moved on. How could we be good shepherds, good leaders? I wonder. We were all called to an inner solitude. We were all called to sit and reflect on this time. We were all called to gather and connect in ways some of us knew, but it was never so necessary or proximate. We are still being called to sit down and be quiet and reflect on how love coming through us can sustain and transform our world. This pandemic clarifies the injustice, inequality, and inequity in our society. We are all in different boats in the same ocean of chaos. What could your love do? How could you use your one precious life to make a difference in this chaotic ocean? With love as our guide, how can we falter? Think about doing what you can. Wearing a mask, washing your hands for 20 seconds at least, speaking up about who and what matters. Paulo Freire, educator and philosopher of critical pedagogy, said that thinking is a nonviolent way towards action. In what faith could you connect to think of the many possibilities to create a new and just world? In Pedagogy of the Oppressed, Paulo Freire says that looking at the past must only be a means of understanding more clearly what and who we are, so that we can move more wisely in building the future. As we are in the holiday season, we just got through talking about pilgrims. I think Reverend Tim Barger, our senior minister here, clarified some of that for Thanksgiving. I have been thinking about Christianity in early America. Did you know there was quite a bit of diversity in Christianities on the East Coast of early America? In early America, as opposed to the Roman Empire, where there was Emperor Constantine, who imposed one kind of Christianity for one empire, one religion, one empire. As opposed to that, people in early America practiced variety of kinds of religion and Christianity. Okay, so we've talked about this before, but there were Calvinists whose style of preaching was charismatic and a kind of hellfire and damnation. And then there was the succeeding generation of people like William Ellery Channing, who spoke against all of that fiery preaching for a Unitarian Christianity. There were people who read their Bibles and interpreted scripture for themselves. One person, well, we may be more familiar, some of us may be more familiar with this story through a song that Reverend Tim and commissioned lay minister David Strickler and I sang about a while ago. Well, this one guy, he built a church, his home, and then he built a church. He was just waiting for the right preacher to arrive to preach the gospel of love. And that preacher was John Murray. There were also African religions in early America and various types of Christian religious roots which laid the foundation for the disciples of Christ, the religion of Reverend Dr. William Barber, co-chair of the new Poor People's Campaign. There was also a Black minister, Calvinist minister, named Lemuel Haynes, who ministered to New England congregations, one Black man and a family, to a predominantly white congregations before the American Revolution. But it appears as though his religious narrative leads him on to our present day liberal cousins, the UCC. So we can't claim him as our Unitarian Universalist. We might want to. In his book, Awash in a Sea of Faith, Christianizing the American People, John Butler argues that early America was an antebellum spiritual hothouse. There was such an increase in the numbers of Christianities more than one kind. And he says that it was so eclectic. After 1680, that religious eclecticism included magic and the occult and a confined extension of old world Christianity. This religious pluralism would give the impression that Christianity would decline because there was because there was so much diversity, but there was an increase in the power of institutional authorities and denominational structures in North America. Butler discusses the relationship between the church and the state, including how legal policies and systems coerced the discontinuance of African religious systems to protect Christianity and to subvert blasphemy. But, even if you were religiously hostile, you don't want to go to church. You don't want to, I'm not going to. Or indifferent, I really don't care. You were attacked. And this led to something different. Butler called it an antebellum spiritual hothouse at the time, but because of this power, this led to an arrival of denominations. And enslaved persons of African heritage became Christians. After 1740, there was evangelicalism, sectarianism that buoyed the waves of early American culture as the relationship between church and state issues kind of waved back and forth between the old country ideas of a state religion, the new ideas it doesn't really matter. And so we don't have the state religion in America. Decisions were legally made. Powerful institutions shaped religion in early America, and thus where we are now. We have no official state religion, and we have a plurality of faiths. We have a separation of church and state. Though there has been some power behind supporting Christianity, certain kinds of Christianity. Author William Hargrove, friend to Dr. Reverend William Barber, argues in his book, Reconstructing the Gospel, that the Christianity we have now is a slaveholder's religion. Using those terms denotes the sovereign power in America that supported enslavement of persons of African heritage in America. Surely, I am a person of African heritage, and given what I have learned about my own genealogy and this early American Christianity, it makes sense that I have both Baptist and Pentecostal Christianities as a part of my faith heritage. It also makes sense that as people of faith, trying to do the best they knew how, they might apply their faith guidelines to me. I may have had some disagreement with their ideas, but I had an epiphany while I was reading behind the scenes of the Old Testament. Many of you know that I am in seminary right now. So I've been listening to my professors say repeatedly, be careful to refrain from applying the cultural ideas of ancient Israel to the present. Ancient Israel was the late Bronze Age. Could some of my disagreement with the faith of my family be due to their application of cultural ideas that did not apply to a young person growing up in the 70s? Maybe this seems obvious to you, but this was a very spiritual moment for me. And when I say spiritual, I mean spiritual in the way that Clarence Skinner, Universalist, defined spirituality. Spiritual meaning connection to the self and to those around us, and connection to community. I find this definition of spirituality to be holistic, with a paradigm of interconnection. Skinner says in his 1915 essay, The Social Implications of Universalism, that what saved us is a process of differentiation and discovery of authenticity of self while being part of a community that also allows people the freedom to grow and affirm that process of differentiation. Roots, wings. We say that a lot. I think there are people like me looking for community, purpose, and meaning. A chance in the world to grow. A chance to find themselves in a faith that honors friendship and thinking freely. Skinner also said that there was no social problem that could be resolved without looking at the spiritual. Well, maybe seminary is a safe place for me to be away from the edge of the roof, to reference the quote from Rumi in the Order of Service. To sit down and think, to be very spiritual. And maybe places like this congregation are very important too, where we can think about the possibilities of creating a more just world. I think it's critical that we have these spaces. We are all interrelated and interconnected in an ocean. Right now, chaos. As you can, think freely. Connect to yourself. See the people around you and your relationships to communities. What becomes clear? We are all called, each and every one of us. When we reflect on the past, we can learn ways to adapt. We can be courageous in speaking and listening. We can make a new and just world with our authentic and precious life. With love as our guide, how could we falter? Amen. Blessed be. Ashe.
Thank you for your words, Melissa. For our offertory today, I have words by Paul R. Beadle. That form of love we call generosity. Once upon a time, most folks used the offering plate to fulfill their pledges of financial support. Nowadays, lots of folks click on their church websites or set up automatic transfers from their checking accounts. Some still write a monthly check, paying their church bill along with all the others. But passing the offering plate was never just a practical exercise. It has always been a ritual. Even if your pledge is paid up, it is worthwhile for you to bring even just $1 to drop into the plate as a ritual reminder of that form of love we call generosity. Let it be a reminder that after meeting our obligations to ourselves and our households and the committees to which we belong and are committed, we must still keep our capacity to give. The practice of giving, until it is second nature and first response, helps bring forth the realm of love. We will receive the offering virtually today, and you're also welcome to send in to our Glendale address. You'll notice a link in the YouTube comments to uutoledo.org/connection/donate. And if you'd like to learn more about our contact information or other ways to be involved, you can follow that link to explore our new website. While you click a new tab and keep your YouTube open, I'll let you know what we have coming up. Next week, we'll have our 10 a.m. spiritual adventures, followed by our 11 a.m. service, a religious education conversation with Dr. T.K. Barger, and of course, our interim religious educator, Soroya King. We look forward to seeing you all then. In the meantime, we'd love to see you on Zoom for our social hour after today's service. That meeting code and password is in our YouTube description today, so you can go ahead and click on there and copy paste, put it into Zoom, grab your coffee, and we'll see you after service.
Now for our closing words. With open hearts, we recognize that our communities are more complex than the conventional stories we have been told. We seek information that provides a fuller picture of the past. We listen to direct experiences that are unlike our own. We are humbled by their words, and we sit and think freely. We pay more attention to larger processes and systems. As we can, we compassionately strive for a just new world because we know love includes all of us. And for sending the flame, I have these words. We extinguish this chalice today, but we are illuminated by a faith that allows us to sit and think. In this quiet time, we can reflect in solitude while listening to sounds, meditating on love, and growing out of our comfort. Though we experience discomfort, we are excited to give birth to a new, just world.